Good afternoon, everyone. Texas planted corn may shrivel, no rainfall. Ukraine pesticide collapse, 40% reduction plus. U.S. farm inputs difficult to find. Record pricing for nitrogen. Record low for purchasing power of the U.S. dollar. Inverse on that one, resulting in bare store shelves. The restock may or may not happen. Russia, Ukraine, contributors of these commodities look for price push. Shanghai, ships waiting to load or discharge. That vertical red line means products are going to stop for the next year. Keep in mind, we used to make everything in America. And while we still have supplies inbound, a list of things you might want to consider, especially socks. And a moment of zen to decompress in the madness. Listen to this. Studies show our mental health changes based on how many or how few wrinkles we have. Anti-aging companies prey on that, but many of their products don't work because they fail to target the root concern that contribute to wrinkles. The true way to attack wrinkle concerns is by going underneath the surface of the skin in ways to promote youthfulness. This is why I highly recommend Multi-Collagen. This amazing product helps restore skin's youthfulness by getting to the root problem that causes the wrinkles. It works because it's a health supplement, not an anti-aging serum. My skin looks better than it has in years thanks to taking it. Supercharge your collagen intake because collagen is the #1 protein in our skin, and it's also the #1 ingredient in this powder. And if you've been looking for a great way to improve your skin's health and youthfulness, you'll love the wonderful effects of taking collagen. And for the next 24 hours, take 51% off your order by going to healthwithadapt2030.com or click on the link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And as we move into this May-June first tick of the box of global food shortages inbound, look for the corn. It's all about the corn. Corn is in a lion's share of products across all supermarket shelves. It's animal husbandry, anything from cows to eggs, dairy, anything in between, ethanol for the fuel supply. So when corn goes lean or down 20% globally from the averages, everything's going to skyrocket in price. So all eyes on the corn. And when you hear about herbicides, pesticide shortages, non-plantings, droughts, focus on the corn because that's the thing that's going to drive the price the most, at least in this first turn of your food price and my food price in the supermarkets. So here we start with Texas farmers worrying unplanted corn may shrivel up. So they've already planted and the rain shut off. Emergence is minimal at best, so they're worried about the seed corn in the ground and it's going to shrivel and never emerge. Now the same thing had happened in 2011, and if you do look back, they had gargantuan losses across many states in the U.S. due to that drought. And that's why there was record pricing 2011 and 12 for grains, which we have now eclipsed currently before we even get into this planting madness. So looking at the 2022 corn planted area, increase, decrease, the total so far with this article, U.S. corn production down 4%. But as we get into the fertilizer woes that are soon to be felt, this should drop further. And as it does, the entire world will follow in tandem. Not enough fertilizers, you're not growing corn. They're heavy feeders. A lot of beans are going to be planted in place of this. It's called planting intention. You can look this up anywhere online. You know the specific keywords to search this information. Planting intention. The amount of corn is going to drop as we move through the end of May and into June. Now off Ag Day here, the root zone, very dry and extreme. So you need to also match up crop production areas where it's extreme. But the main quote-unquote corn belt itself, Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, looks like it has enough moisture for now, but these periphery corn growing areas as well as just crop zones are going to struggle. Off Ag Facts, the new crop supports slow planting. This is for rice, U.S. rice. Corn, they're not even sure how long it's going to take to plant this year. All the inputs are staggeringly low at the moment, and prices have quadrupled. And Ukrainian farmers barely planting 20% of all the spring crops. That means minus 80% from the normal. And staying over on the Farm Journal here, they did a supply chain survey March 2022, last month. And they were asking retailers, or those that sell it, wholesalers, did you have difficulty sourcing inputs for this farming season? 87% of all businesses selling to farmers say yes. Which inputs? Herbicide, fungicide, fertilizers, and insecticides, otherwise known as pesticides. So that herbicide at 85%, what that means is the grasses between the corn rows are going to continue to grow and compete for nutrients of already scarce fertilizer that's going to go on top of that corn crop. Now, corn's a grass, but what we know as grasses and field weeds coming out need to be controlled to get a higher yield. So if you don't have the herbicides, you're looking at a decline in production, not enough fertilizer, decline in production, not enough pesticides or insecticides, decline in production, drought conditions, decline in production, war conflict, decline in production. And wherever you look, there's so many facets that keep screaming red. The corn's not going to be here this year. And once you look at corn and how many products are made from corn, and if you have a spare hour and 10 minutes, you might want to watch a documentary called King Corn. In there, they're stating that, this is even years ago, 10, 12 years ago, that over 3,000 products in any average supermarket in a Western country has a corn-based product in it. In addition, 400 additional non-food products have corn-based something in it, whether it be the corn plastics or binding agents or whatever it is. So if you're taking corn off the market, or corn goes triple, quadruple pricing, then everything is either going to be not manufactured, because it's a science getting that perfect taste profile and the consistency of snap, crackle, and pop, whatever it is for the foods in boxes that we routinely buy from a supermarket. You alter even one ingredient in that, and they really need to start over the process to get you that same food. So what was spoken about is companies are just not going to produce it. If they can't get their inputs, they're going to stop producing. So corn is so integral, not only for the supermarket products and the bioplastics, and at the same time, we're looking at the animal husbandry arena with cattle, dairy, chicken, egg, and then at the same time, the ethanol production. So which one of those is going to cave first? Will there be enough willpower within the administration to say, we got to start cutting off this ethanol usage and redirect that back to the food supply? But then what will that do with fuel pricing? If you're going to subtract, 10% of all the available fuels out of the U.S. as additives into the gasoline, we're going to have to pull that from somewhere else. But it looks like the strategic reserves have already been pulled from and sent over to Europe. So unless we're opening the pipelines back up, there's going to be a world of hurt in the energy supply too. So you can just see this thing dovetailing from the energy to the food, to the meat and eggs, poultry, dairy, and it's this downward spiral. And it's been like this for months and months and months. So nobody's woken up yet, and the governmental side, and said, well, we got a huge problem. Maybe we need to retool a few things and kind of streamline some production and delivery here, but it's not happening yet. How many times have I said that in the last 5 or 6 weeks? Still week 6 or 7, known these shortages are inbound, and nothing is moving to alleviate the shortages. So jumping onto the Ukraine, 30% of all the corn available for sale on this planet comes out of the Ukraine and Russia. But now they don't have the pesticides because the supply chains are not functioning properly, which is going to lead to, at best here, they're looking at a fall of 35 to 40% on the record. But wait a minute, they've only planted 20% of the field. So they didn't tell you that they didn't plant 80% yet that should be planted. So of the 20% that is planted, they're still going to lose 40%. So So start working the math, the numbers on this, and we are going into a place we've never been before in global food production, except sometime in the past when castles were sieged. Now, which herbicides are they having a difficulty securing? Glyphosate, 100% of people are saying difficulty securing that one. Well, that's the one that's mainly used with Roundup Ready, GMO seeds that go into the corn, 2,4-D, Camba, Grazon. You know, there's quite a few others out there. Atrazine, I've seen that. You don't have this, and you're looking at a 1% decline on yields for every 1% non-application of these in your fields. And that will go with fertilizers too. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. If you reduce your fertilizer application 10%, you're going to lose 10% of yield. If you reduce your herbicide 10%, you're going to lose an additional 10%. So it's not just, it subtracts 10% and you're done. It's each one of these inputs has its own reduction. And now we're looking at the retailers reported on their current inventories. This is super important here, if not the most important slide in the entire video. These are retailers saying they have enough stuff right now or not, because it seems like supply chains are cut off. So do they have enough now or do they not? Rated half of the retailers say they do not have. 50 to 74% is on the good end. But then look at inventory less than 25% on the right side there, 6% of the retailers. But I do want to pull you way over to the far left where it says 50% of retailers, 75 to 99%. Now for me, looking at this information, I want to dissect that, because 75 to 80 should be its own category and 80 to 85 should be its own category. You see what I mean? Because they lumped that last 75 to 100% in one category. Well, really, maybe it's only 1% only have 99, but the other 90% have 75%. How much is there in the inventory for our farmers here? Because looking at the record pricing now with nitrogen, this is coming off TradingView. Vertical. And we've seen vertical again, and off the Economic Collapse blog. This is April 10th. Price of nitrogen, 200 to 1,000. That's a 5x increase. Potassium's gone 200 to 700, and phosphorus has gone 250 to 700. So a lot of farmers and people are starting to blend their own. They're going to get nitrogen at 4500, just pure nitrogen. Like when you open a bag of mix, it's got those different colored granules in there. That's because the potassium is a different color from the phosphorus, is a different color from the nitrogen. So when you look in there, you got 3 different colored pellets. Well, they mixed it themselves to get that ratio of 10-10-10 or 6-12-12 or whatever you want to do. Things are changing out on the farm for sure. A lot of people are playing chemistry set suddenly because these, what were considered staples, are no longer available. So mixing and matching is where we're going. Now the shipping is an integral part of all of this. And then we look at the containers still locked down. It's going to be a year delay at least getting everything back up from Shanghai, Ningbo, Hangzhou, and Suzhou ports. And the number here looks exactly like the fertilizer prices and the prices for all farm inputs. It's following the same. Everything is going vertical like this. Everything. How long will that bottleneck take to sort itself out? And this is just an average density map that you can find across the net of ships waiting at anchor to unload their cargo. Now the outbound cargo as well is going to be affected. So no machinery repair parts, this sort of thing is going to really bottleneck a lot of ag here too. So those types of shipping delays coming out of China. What about our repair parts for anything agricultural? Machinery repair parts are not coming in. So pretty much what we have is what we have. Like I said in my last video, it's almost like we're under siege, like the country is being cut off. Whether you siege a castle in the 1500s, you cut off all supplies, logistics, food imports, anything available to keep the people functioning at an optimum level, you cut that off to minimal or below minimal, and eventually they capitulate. So if there's no repair parts coming out of China and we can't repair our tractors or combines, harvesters, whatever it is, sprayers, nozzles, whatever it is to get implements into and onto the crops or out of the fields to the grain silos, then what? You got $1 million machine sitting in the field because it lost a tire and they don't have a rim for it and they're waiting for it to come to China. So you got $1 million piece of equipment just sitting idle because they can't get repair parts for it. This is where we're at today. And we haven't even gone through the planting or the harvesting yet. So I can't see it getting any better, because that red line vertical means we're literally cut off from all repair parts coming in for our farm implements right now. And speaking of inputs, look at Russia and Ukraine, significant contributors, key commodities. Look at sunflower seed oils, 56% of global total. And then we look at rye as well, oats, barley, wheat. Speaking of inverses, let's look at the purchasing power of the dollar. Since January 1st, the year 2000, this is $100. We're down around 58 and dropping. So the less purchasing power we have means inflation. Things are going to cost you more to buy the same item. So then right in the center there, just in, Amazon will charge sellers 5% fuel and inflation surcharge starting on April 28th. Fits right in with the hyperinflating prices and the devalued dollar. It's all a monetary show, which results in empty shelves. This is your stage performance ending curtain drop here. How are you going to feed your families? And speaking of gardens, a moment of zen. You can take breaks from the madness. You can absolutely step away from this. I need to do it at times surfing the news. I just need to go for a walk in my front field or go in the back in the forest and, cut a few limbs to make another trail. I just need to get out of the mind madness at times, and getting back to nature, touching nature is really where we're going to need to go with this to survive mentally. The perspective of it, of all those things being bottlenecked in China, and then looking back, I remember the 1990s. We did make an enormous amount of stuff here in America, but then suddenly everything was outsourced. There was NAFTA, then there was China, and whoosh, everything's overseas, and globalization took off. And we're going to have to bring this back, but how long does it take to bring factories back to retool a lot of things for farm machinery repair parts? But speaking of the goods, we do have some time left to get some items. Now, this is off Mike Adams' site, Natural News. He put this together here of items you might want to have. My number one choice on this is the socks. Obviously, except the money, the dollars. Look at the Zimbabwe dollars. If I could pull three things off the table, it would be the toothbrushes and the gauze pads. Most people not thinking about that, but you're going to be doing a lot more field work and working out in the garden and a lot more outdoor activity, a lot more walking, a lot more pulling, lifting. Now, if you don't have those socks, A, your boots are going to rip your feet to shreds, and B, they're going to get soiled with sweat and sort of thing, and then eventually those boots become a factory for fungus and sort of thing. You don't want athlete's foot, because if you're getting lean on the medicines anyway with supply chain bottlenecks, last thing you want is uncurable athlete's foot. These socks are so essential. And I was telling everybody, I'm going out, I'm buying mountains of socks. They're that integral and that important, because if you don't have the socks, I cannot explain highly enough how it's going to change the effectiveness of you being able to do tasks outside. It's great to walk around barefoot, but not in the winter. What about in the mud? If you're putting out a bunch of compost, you want to walk in that? Maybe not. But summertime heat, sweat, and it's just a recipe for disaster. And your socks are going to break a lot. The more you walk, the more they break. So it's not as if you got 2 pairs of socks and you're going to be good for a year. If you're doing real field work and you're working socks and you get a little bit of rub in there, you're going to just break through those socks. And it's hard to repair socks because, you can't get them perfectly flat again, and it's always going to get the rub. So socks is something to definitely consider. And speaking of doing outdoor work, planting season right now. True Leaf Market, Heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on our planet. Check out their selection. That link's in the description box below with all the links, storages, and images of tonight's video so you can chase it down, do your own research. And also storable foods, 25-year shelf life. My Patriot supply. So how prepared are you for food price shocks? And then this agricultural supply chain breakdown. Storable foods. Definitely want to have some. And I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. And I do this so we can all get more ready, because you see these centralized systems aren't really going to be as helpful as they were. It's going to cause more trauma than it will making our lives abundant. So we're going to have to go back to self-autonomy and decentralized food production, either at your home garden or within your community. Some cities will get it together, probably no larger than 5,000 of these towns and small cities. Larger cities, I doubt they're going to get on food production. They'll still rely on the same systems, which are going to have constraints and food price shocks again. But if you're able to get that garden up, at least you have some food, and then you can store that. And if several neighbors are working together, community gardens, there's a lot more possibility for making sure you have food at all times. Look into canning lids, canning jars. They go fast whenever they're put out. So other people understand canning jars are worth their weight in gold. You can do an enormous amount of storing anything in those for a longer period of time. Massive changes. I'm really going to say once in 1,000, 2,000 year cycle we're in right now. Heavy, more powerful cycle. The changes are going to be more powerful as well. And we're entering into the beginning of the cycle, and the onset is always more disruptive, because everything was stable for 150 years. Now we're right at this couple year juncture where things are becoming very unstable, and it's causing a lot of destabilization in the economy and just everybody's lives. So you're talking about a multi-decade full lifestyle change to get through this. So it's better to embrace it now, know what we're up against, and then work with others to create the solutions. And that will be part of our new lives and lifestyles moving through